babies, Charles in the first instance, and Catherine later. Now, to give you a sense of the courage that I'm talking about, let me read from Michael's book. He is describing the moments after a bazooka anti-tank missile had blasted into their home with a frightening roar. Bits of white-hot metal and phosphorus shredded all the furniture and shattered the glass doors, windows and mirrors into jagged fragments that whistled around just a foot above my head. Then there was a sudden silence in the room. We were both partly deafened by the blast and choking in the dust and fumes, unable to see clearly. I heard Lynette, "Oh, my baby, my baby!" And then, the best sound of all we could have hoped for, the wail of a frightened baby having been wakened from a deep sleep and hurled into a corner. Charles and Lynette were safe, and I was fine. And then, laconically, Michael records, "My mother came with her congratulations on our close escape." Then it was time to get on. And in 1967, he was posted to Makalla as resident advisor, the most senior civilian post in the Eastern Aden Protectorate. Of course, his carefree years had gone. Now, he had an SAS bodyguard wherever he went. But eventually the situation became so bad that Michael received a message to evacuate all the British personnel. Fearing that prior knowledge of this might trigger an uprising and stop the evacuation, he feigned business as usual, even to the extent of ordering dinner and sending out his shirts that night for cleaning. They maintained that pretense right up until everybody had boarded the evacuating helicopters. And Michael, of course, was the last to board. Unfortunately, though, this meant they had to leave behind the local Arabs the British had employed and leave them to their fate. So this time it was a little more than just getting on with it, because Michael suspected that the fate of the Arabs they left behind was massacre. And in his autobiography he wrote, "Her Majesty's government and I had behaved with a mixture of incompetence and immorality. An honourable man, that would have troubled me." So seeking respite for Lynette and the children, far enough away to feel safe, Michael brought them to Western Australia to settle. And that was when baby Nicholas arrived to complete the family. Later, Lynette would go separate ways. And all this was in the past, but not out of memory. When I met Michael for the first time, he was at the university here. He was completing his PhD thesis, a feminist history woven around a biography of his his grandmother. And she was a pioneering feminist, and herself an extraordinarily strong role model for Michael. But Yemen was never far from his thoughts. He liked to recount stories of those days, and in his usual self-deprecating way, he was never the hero. However, one does not have to read too deeply between the lines to know otherwise. And he and Jenny, who married in 1998, took many trips to Yemen, to the place that held so many poignant memories for him. And Michael was to enliven in Jenny the same love for that country and for the people who make it, and also the same hope for their future. He used to talk about that then. In those years, and indeed right up to his passing, Michael was never shy to tell others, or those who we met regularly in the old press.
The old
In the old press. He was always telling us how lucky he was to have someone as a life partner like Jenny. He also liked to share with us the pleasure he got from his family, especially from his grandchildren. And shortly before he died, he told me with immense pride of the formal dinner his family laid on for him at home. At that stage, of course, dining out was out of the question. However, everybody dressed formally for the occasion, but Michael wasn't quite up to wearing the formal gear, so he had to make do with his smoking jacket. So I suggested to him that he must have looked very Noel Coward-ish. Without the neighbourly held a cigarette, of course. But I think the comparison actually rather pleased him. But having a devoted partner and family to love did not diminish Michael's sense of responsibility and obligation to others. Once every fortnight, he would visit the Red Cross to donate plasma until his illness made that impossible. One day a week, as Charles mentioned, Michael would put to practical use his lovely ability to tell a story by recording books for the blind. He spoke to me regularly about how he was looking forward to doing more of that when he finished his PhD. And each Christmas Day, Jenny and he would offer their services as hosts to the annual Christmas Day lunch held in the city for those who, for one reason or another, were alone in the city. And he was deeply disappointed last year when illness meant that he and Jenny could not participate. But in the last months, Jenny was his rock. He told me she was as inspirational to him in illness as she had always been in the good years of health and loving companionship. Michael occasionally referred to me as being godly because sometimes I was prone to quote from the Bible. He meant it kindly, of course. Nevertheless, I am not going to embarrass him by ending with a passage that I like from Revelation chapter 21, verse 4. But in passing, I will share it with you. It is what I would wish for Michael. And I think it would also perhaps make Michael feel something for those last moments when he thought he let people down when he left the car. And it says, "And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying. Neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away." Now, Michael, as always, influenced by his thoughtfulness and perhaps not wanting to be the damned nuisance in death about which his superior admonished him so many years ago, did not want a formal funeral. He did not want the pity. Therefore, for Michael, I will quote not from the Bible, but from a short story written in the 19th century by a Dr. John Brown, who was a physician-philosopher with a similarly gentle, kind manner, who wrote a book about notable characters, humble folk, and canine friends. Michael would like that. Titled Rab and His Friends, it is the story of student doctors and their way of dealing with personal misfortunes of those who were their patients. And it says, pity as an emotion, ending in itself, or at best in tears and a long-drawn breath, lessens, whilst pity as a motive is quickened and gains power and purpose. It is well for poor human nature that it is so. Dr. Brown, I believe, was telling us that out of sadness we should seek celebration. I think Michael and John Brown would have got on, and as well, just got on with it.